Hi, everyone. It's Erica Jefferson with BWISE, Black Women in Science and Engineering. Welcome back. We took a short hiatus because our platform shut down unexpectedly. Blab is no more. So here we are over on YouTube Live. So just a few technical difficulties getting this set up, and we're waiting now for the lovely Iris Wagstaff to join us. But I guess in the duration between our last one, so much has happened, so we want to make sure that we get back on track with everybody, and hopefully you guys will have some really great questions for Iris. I think we're still trying to get her to be able to connect here shortly, so give me just 1 second and we'll go ahead and get started.
Google Hangouts might be a thing of the past, but YouTube Live isn't going anywhere. In fact, in the Video Masters Academy, which is my private training group, we work with business owners on YouTube.
Hi, everyone. I see we've got one viewer. Pardon us, we're dealing with some technical difficulties. That's what happens when technology doesn't always work the way you want it to. So we're just waiting on Iris to join us here shortly, and we'll go ahead and get started. Please have questions for her. It's a wonderful fellowship program, and I hope that you all received some really good information about applying and getting involved in it. So Iris should be on shortly. In the meantime, while we're waiting for her, just want to tell you a little bit about next week's show. We're actually going to have George Smith, who is one of the founders of NSBE, National Society of Black Engineers, will be joining us and talking about the history of NSBE, some of the things that they were able to accomplish in its 40-year history, and then a little bit about what he's doing today. So make sure you stay tuned and check us out next week so you can find out some more about NSBE. So that should be very interesting. One thing I love about live streaming is it's unpredictable, and you never know when technology is going to be your friend and when it's not going to work. Today's one of those days where we're having some challenges, but hopefully we'll have Iris join us shortly, and we can hear her fabulous presentation, and you guys can answer some or ask her some questions about the fellowship and kind of her background as well. So stay tuned. We'll be starting in just a second. We're a little late, so we'll go over to make sure we get a full hour's worth of information from her. So hold on just a second. We'll be right back. All right, I just see that Iris says that the camera is getting set up, so she should be joining us shortly. For those of you who are attending, if you've got any questions in advance, please let me know. We'll make sure we get those answered by Iris. Thank you for joining us today. It's been a couple weeks since we've been on, and so many guests we're looking forward to seeing and talking to in the coming weeks. So hopefully YouTube Live will stay as a live streaming platform. We won't have to shift to something else. So apologies for the weeks that we've been gone. We have been very busy. BWISE has been expanding across the country. We're now in Houston, Atlanta, DC, and soon to be Chicago. 2017 will probably be a phenomenal year, and we'll be expanding to some other cities in 2017, as well as expanding some of our offerings. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, that's it. So trying to stall, as you can tell, waiting for Iris to join. Hopefully it won't be much longer, but if you have any questions about BWISE, some of the things we're doing, please feel free to comment or share while we're on tonight. If you've got an idea for a show, we certainly take those. If you've got, oh gosh, now it says it's not working. Some ideas for some shows, some guests that you'd like to see us feature, please send me those. We'd be glad to make sure we reach out to those guests to get them on. Just one second, let me see. Okay, we're still having some technical difficulties. It's the beauty of technology. This happened just the other day with one of our BWISE members who also does a weekly show. And we had switched over to a new platform, and that platform wasn't working. So we had to quickly jump to yet another platform, which I had tested out, but it only allows you to live stream for 40 minutes. Our shows are typically an hour plus any questions. So YouTube was supposed to be the savior and the answer to all those questions. So bear with us. All right. Oh, welcome, Iris.
Oh my
Apologies,
God.
everyone. I tell you, everything that could go wrong typically goes wrong. That's how it works. But nevertheless, we're here. Iris is here. Thank you. We're going to keep going until Iris finishes everything she has to share with us. So thank you guys for being patient. Hopefully you guys who came in and we weren't talking will come back. If not, I will upload this on our BWISE website so you all can watch it at a later date. So again, apologies for the technical difficulties. I guess it just wouldn't be the world if something crazy didn't go on. So
You're right. You're right.
apologies, Iris. We're so excited and anxious to hear all these, wonderful facts about the fellowship program. So I'll do a little bit of introduction, such as I can. I have to grab my LinkedIn real quick and turn it over to you. But thank you again for agreeing to do this. I know you've got a very busy schedule, but I know how important this fellowship is to you. So I wanted to make sure that you share this wonderful information with everyone. So just a little bit about Iris. Iris is currently a policy fellow at the AAAS Science and Technology Policy Fellowship Program. So we'll let her tell us a little bit about that. And that's with the National Institute of Justice Office. She worked as a research scientist in analytical and polymer chemistry for 13 years at Roman Haas Chemical in Springhouse, Pennsylvania, now Dow Chemical. Taught chemistry on the community college level for 2 years and has over 20 years of science, technology, engineering, and math or STEM outreach and mentoring to the community. So Iris is a STEM advocate, a STEM expert, a policy expert, just all around fabulous, knowledgeable. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Iris, if you want to, kind of give us a little bit about yourself that I didn't cover, of course, and then maybe how you found out about the fellowship program, and then a little bit about it, and then the timelines on applying and whatnot. So with that, I'll turn it to you.
Sure. I hear an echo, but hopefully you don't hear it.
No, you sound perfect to me.
Okay. Okay, so thanks, Erica. We finally actually talked for the first time recently, but we've been communicating online through LinkedIn for a while. So I'm excited. I'm really excited about BWISE and your efforts in being a part of this amazing group of women in science and engineering. I guess I'll just say a little bit about my background. I am a former research chemist with the Roman Haas company, who invented acrylic polymers. So if you know anything about acrylic polymers, my company actually invented that product. So I did that for 13 years. Like you said, I went back to school in STEM education, research, and policy. So I'm a physical scientist as well as a social scientist. And I conduct research in STEM education. But for the last 20 years, I've been developing informal science programs in the community, focused on underrepresented students. I teach science teachers, so I do a lot with pedagogy as far as science education and teaching it from a culturally relevant standpoint. And I do a lot of mentoring of students of color in chemistry and chemical engineering. So tonight, I just want to talk a little bit about the AAAS Science and Technology Policy Fellowship. So AAAS is the American Association for the Advancement of Science. And this fellowship, I think it's really awesome. We may have some AAAS fellows on the call tonight, if so, that would be great. But it's been around since the 70s, and currently we have about almost 3,000 AAAS alumni fellows. And the whole purpose of the fellowship is to place scientists and engineers as well as physicians in policy positions within the federal agencies. So you spend a year embedded within a federal agency. I can go over the phases in the process. It's actually 3 phases to applying for the fellowship. But the whole goal is again, to engage scientists and engineers in policy at the highest levels and to work on some of the challenging issues that agencies or permanent federal employees don't have the bandwidth, the capacity, or the time to work on. And I can talk a little bit about some of the different project areas as well. So the way the fellowship is structured is it's a professional development fellowship. So it's very different from a postdoc or an internship or other types of fellowships because it's mainly focused on professional development. So when you start the fellowship, you have a 2-week orientation where you get a crash course in how we craft policy at the highest levels. Okay. You'll learn about the federal budget process and just a lot of information that you'll get during that first 2 weeks. And throughout the year, you'll have about maybe 10 to 12 professional development experiences or opportunities throughout the year, and that could be on science communications. It could be on, again, more on the federal budget process or public speaking, talking to lay groups as a scientist or engineer. So that's one of the things that I think has been most valuable about the fellowship is that it's for professional development. So it's designed for us to find out what the opportunities are to work within the federal government. One of the benefits I found has just been the access, the huge fellows network. A lot of the fellows are currently working in very high level positions within the federal government. John Holdren, the head of the Office of Science and Technology Policy, Is a past director of AAAS. We have a number of fellows that are working in the White House and other high levels within the government. So just having that access to fellows has been awesome.
Now, are
Um,
all the fellows in DC?
Yes, you actually have to come to DC. So a little bit about the breakdown. Most of the fellows, so in our class, we have about 280 fellows this year, and about 35 of those are congressional fellows, and the rest are executive branch fellows. So you actually have to leave where you are and come to DC for a year
Okay.
and work within the federal agencies. And during the interview process, you'll actually interview with all the agencies that are on your interview list. And then you'll choose a placement. And my placement is with the National Institute of Justice.
Okay. Now, did you get to choose your placement, or were you assigned that?
No, you actually interview for your fellowship positions, and hopefully you'll get enough offers that you'll actually have choices. So I did have offers from NSF and NIH, but I chose NIJ because I had never heard of NIJ, number one, and I was just really interested in the work that they do because it's science serving justice, and I just thought that that was, a huge mission. It's a very small funding agency, so my agency funds all of the work that has to do with forensic science R&D, and all of the STEM sciences and the social sciences that have an application in forensics. So my office is the forensic office, but we also fund, sexual assault work, the work on victims' rights, criminalization, victimization, um, a lot of those other areas as well. So I just thought that the work that the agency was doing was very timely, considering all of the criminal justice related issues that we have. And I just thought it was interesting and a chance to do something different.
That is so interesting. I know I would not have thought. Everyone says, "Oh, with a STEM degree, you can work anywhere," and to some degree, that's probably true for some people. But I just would have never thought that the application would extend to something like the judicial system. So, that's probably something, especially, children in underrepresented groups or impoverished areas, who've seen a lot and feel like they want to contribute, but they're not quite sure. I know they would never think about STEM career, how a STEM career can tie back into forensics, can tie back into the judicial system. So that's
Right.
interesting.
Right. And it was just really fascinating to me because, like I said, I had never heard of NIJ. They were on my interview list, and I was like, what is an NIJ? And during orientation last April, during that week when you're interviewing with all the agencies, you also get a chance to hear presentations from the different agencies. And one of the current fellows, Liz Boatman, spoke about her work at NIJ, and I just thought it was just, you don't think about how we use science to serve justice, but we use it on a daily basis.
Right.
And so my boss, he does a lot of he travels a lot, and he does a lot of work with the court system and lawyers and judges, and trying to inform them on how you actually interpret scientific evidence, because it's very different. So, in the science world, we have, error and uncertainty, but in the judicial world, somebody's either guilty or innocent. And so there's a yes or a no, and we work very differently as scientists. So he does a lot of work to help inform the judicial system on how you actually interpret science. And so my office has done a lot of work to help the exoneration process, to exonerate people who have, based on, not just based on DNA evidence, but reopening cases, where the science was faulty or wasn't sound. So I just think it's very timely to be at the science agency of the Department of Justice,
I think
at this time.
I think that's awesome, and I am always, seeing these, coding camps and astronauts being trotted out, and you know,
Yeah,
all these things focus on tech. Well, STEM is more than just the T. It's got an S, an E, and an M in there. So,
absolutely, absolutely.
I would love to promote this more and show, because to me, you will find yourself doing what resonates with you, even as a child, right? So, if
Right,
you kind of struggle in your childhood, your mother gets sick, your dad gets sick, causes a lot of children to go into medicine and become doctors. Somebody
right.
legal problems in your family causes a lot of them to go into the law. And I think, especially young minority kids, that may be a way to encourage them to go into STEM, right?
Definitely,
You had
definitely.
some problem, someone did something to someone in your family and you didn't feel, or your family didn't feel like they were um, treated properly or fairly. Now this is your way to get involved, and as you grow up and mature as an adult and get a job, you can have an impact on that. So I definitely want to stay connected, and as we reach out to some of these schools and other education, and I know you do a lot with schools.
Yes.
We want equal time as the astronauts. Actually, we want more time
Right.
than astronauts.
Exactly,
Astronaut,
exactly, right.
NASA only takes 1%, so that's not a viable career option for most.
Right.
We don't need to have astronauts at every event because most of us will never even have a chance to be an astronaut, but we will be lab scientists, bench scientists, right? Engineers working in a plant,
Right.
civil engineers working in construction and infrastructure and things like that. So that's what we need to be showing, and I'm convinced that when you see these numbers with people leaving science and engineering is because they thought, this is not what I thought it was. You
Right.
told me that I was going to be making apps all day and I was going to be an astronaut, and you have me working in a lab. So thank you so much for making that choice. You probably didn't realize when you were making
No,
to go
no, I
off.
had no idea. I mean, because like I said, I had assumed that I would be an NSF or NIH because on paper, it definitely matches my background, with STEM education. But I just thought this was an opportunity, even within the fellowship, to do something very different. So I
Right.
don't have any kind of background at all in forensics, but I just thought the work, their mission was huge, and the work was, um, definitely needed, especially now with what's going on.
I love it. I think
Um,
you and I should
yeah,
write a LinkedIn post about how STEM touches non-traditional careers. So I'm gonna circle back with
definitely, definitely. And it's very different from other science agencies because it is applied science, so it's different from the other agencies that, fund empirical research or, those other areas. So it's definitely applied science as opposed to basic research.
absolutely.
So we
For some
touch people's
reason,
lives.
your camera has gone out, but that's okay because we can still hear you. So I don't know, did your blue light go off? Can you still hear me? Uh-oh. Iris, you still there? I was afraid of that. I love
Can you hear me
technology.
now?
Yeah, we can hear you. So we're just going to continue with the sound. We've already seen your lovely face. So who knows what's going on behind the scenes at YouTube. We're just going to keep on going, and we're going to
Okay.
listen to you, because I'm afraid of touching anything and us shutting the whole thing down. So keep going, Iris.
So a little bit about the application process. So the applications opened, I think, August 1st, and they closed November 1st. So as far as the requirements and eligibility, you have to have a doctoral degree in any scientific discipline. So either a PhD, an MD, a doctor of sociology, or a veterinarian degree. The only difference is for engineers. Engineers can apply with a master's and 3 years of professional experience.
A,
And so
ma-
the main phases of
master's,
the application.
a master's
Mhm.
in 3 years or a master's or 3 years?
A master's with 3 years of experience for
Okay.
engineers.
Okay, so you still have to have a master's in engineering.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and pretty much all of the policy fellowships, you have to have a PhD. So it's similar to the other fellowships in that respect as far as the requirements. And typically, engineers only need a master's anyway, as long as they have some professional experience. But with this fellowship, you have to have 3 years of professional experience if you're an engineer.
Got it.
And so we have fellows that come directly out of school. We have fellows like, me who have, been out of school for a long time, or you have a lot of years removed from your terminal degree. And then we have fellows who, leave their faculty positions and take a sabbatical. So, we have faculties from industry, from academia, as well as nonprofits, and other federal agencies. So the first phase of the application process involves the application. your CV. What's critical in the first phase is your personal statement. So you really want to craft your personal statement where the agencies can see mutual contributions, not just what you can get out of the experience, but what you can bring, to their agency, because they're looking for fellows to come in and work on like high level projects and to do the type of work that the permanent employees don't have a lot of time, or effort to invest in. So you could be working on drafting legislation if you're a congressional fellow. You could be working on briefings or talking points, responding to queries from Congress. You can be doing like program management, program evaluation. You can be doing health policy research. So there are a lot of, the projects vary depending on the agency and then the departments within the agency.
Okay.
So there are 5 different program areas. I'm in the health, education, and human service program area. So within that program area, you'll find NSF, NIH, my agency, the Department of Justice. I think the Department of Education is also within that program area. And then we have some other program areas that include like big data and analytics. We have the congressional program track, and then we have the diplomacy program track, where if you're interested in doing foreign policy or working at the Department of State or the U.S. Agency for International Development, you would apply to that program area.
So it sounds like you kind of need to be thinking about this fairly early in your career. So when you're maybe getting ready to graduate from undergrad and you're thinking whether you want to go on for a graduate degree, you should be thinking about something like this, because it seems like it's geared more towards someone who's got a plan and they've got an idea of what they want to do, as opposed to people like me who just kind of meandered around their career.
Not necessarily. Like I said, we have applicants who come straight out of school and don't have policy experience, but have some good ideas about what they might want to do. So it just depends on not just your background, but what your interest is, and what projects or initiatives the agencies are interested in moving forward. But you really want to craft a good personal statement.
Okay.
So that's a key piece within that first phase. And in the second phase, if you make it past the first phase, then you'll actually craft a policy statement. And you'll be given different options about an issue to address. So my issue was on STEM education, and they, I think in 2013, all the federal agencies kind of reorganized their STEM education and pretty much align everything under the Department of Education and NSF. So I had to address, whether or not their strategic plan was a good plan to reevaluate their program portfolios. And the goal was to try to minimize, duplications in program efforts. But so I had to kind of address the, STEM education issue at the K through 12 level. So that's a big part of your second phase if you make it to that round. And then you'll actually present your policy statement to a group of 5 to 6 policy people. Most of them will come from federal agencies. Okay. And then if you make it through that phase, and the third phase involves the interview, where you're invited to come and interview with the agencies in April. And the whole goal of that second phase in your policy statement is to craft a strong enough policy statement where you're very focused and you have some definite ideas about what you want to work on, but you also want to show that you're flexible and that you can work in different agencies and different departments, because they're trying to place you. And the whole goal of that policy statement is to make sure you have enough interviews when it comes to the interview round, where you can make where you have some options about where you want to go. So you want to be focused, but you also want to be flexible and show, so the agencies can see where they could possibly place you in different areas or different agencies.
Now, are there people coaching you throughout this program to make sure that you do get placed somewhere?
So I know what I've done a lot of is I've helped applicants draft their personal statements and their policy statements, and I reached out to former fellows on LinkedIn and by word of mouth. I had a few friends that were former fellows, and then that's the same thing that happened this year. applicants reached out to us. And then we introduced them to more fellows who are currently in fellowship positions or in permanent positions through the agency. So that's one of the benefits of being a fellow. It's a huge network of the past fellows, and all the fellows are willing to help current fellows and new applicants with, tips on how to navigate this whole application process.
Right. So the fellowship is a certain period of time, and then after the fellowship is over, it's hoped that you go into that agency where you were working, correct?
Not necessarily. That's not always the goal. So the fellowship goes from September 1st to August 31st. And so I renewed for a second year. So I am, 20 days into my second year of the fellowship, but it's not a guarantee. You're offered 1 year. And when you get close to completing that first year, if your agency wants you, they'll ask you to stay and you can renew for a second year. But, many of the fellows go back to their home, they go back to their faculty position. About a third of them find jobs within the agency that they're doing the fellowship, and about a third find jobs other places, either here in DC or, outside of the area. So it's a good mix. It depends on what your goals are. If you're using this to try to get into the federal government, I think it's a great mechanism to do that, but not everybody has that goal. Some of the people just want a year of policy experience and then to go back to their faculty position or go back to their job. But it's a good way to take time out to do policy, especially for people who are, at the lab bench, because how else will you get a chance to work on national policy issues? And this fellowship gives you that opportunity.
I think this sounds like a wonderful program for some of the postdocs. Certainly the ones I've talked to are they're debating what their next move is. They're not sure if they should go into full-time academia or they should go into industry, but postdocs don't last forever. So
right. Oh no, I think this is definitely a great alternative to continual postdocing. I mean, I've talked to people who've done 2, 3, and 4 postdocs because they couldn't figure out what they wanted to do. And nothing against that, because that's an opportunity as well. But this is very different from a postdoc. Number one, the money's better. So I think the average right now for a postdoc is about 45. That's 45,000 is the national average. Right. So with the AAAS Fellowship, you start out at the equivalent of a GS-12. So you'll start out anywhere between $75,000 and $100,000. Depending on your years of experience.
Right.
And then the 3 different levels that you can start out at, like I said, it's equivalent to a GS-12, step 1, 5, and 10. Okay. So you'll start out somewhere between $75,000 and $100,000. And again, that's based on how many years you remove from your terminal degree.
Got it. So hopefully you postdocs out there are listening, and if you're kind of wondering what your next move should be, you will consider this wonderful fellowship program and reach out to Iris. So that's good. I hadn't thought about that until you said that. So.
And I definitely have some. You can go to the website. I'll send you that link to the direct site where you can apply. And then also, if you have questions, other questions I can answer. I think I tried to cover the different program areas, some of the type of work you might be doing. And again, some of the past fellows who are in high level positions now, like Tom Khalil, who's the, second in hand at the Office of Science and Technology Policy. And then once you become a fellow, then you have access to the fellows network. So you can just look up a fellow at a different agency if you just want to get an idea about what they're doing. And informational interviews, that's another part of the process that we're supposed to be engaging in now, is just going around to the different agencies and contacting different people within the agencies to find out what the opportunities are at their agency. So it's really a professional development experience, and all of the professional development and training that you get is done by experts in the field. So it may be somebody from the Brookings Institute or Georgetown Policy Center or something like that. And these are courses that people pay thousands of dollars, for, that we get as a part of the fellowship.
It's almost sounding like you're being paid to learn.
It is. It's definitely, yes. Definitely. And again, like I said, it's very different from a postdoc because the agencies are looking at you as like a value, you know, an asset,
Right.
definitely to their agencies, even though it's a temporary position.
Right. But it's a launching pad. It sounds like it's gonna allow you to rub shoulders and meet, you know, some incredible people that could possibly be very instrumental in you getting on full time. So that's awesome. So the White House also has an Office of Science and Technology Policy. Do the agencies or your agency work with them at all?
So I'm doing some work with the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy. I'm working on a number of STEM initiatives with OSTP. So I worked on the National Week of Making. I'm also working on the Kids Science Advisory Board that the president started a couple of months ago. So I'm working on several initiatives with them, and I'm also working with the White House initiative on HBCUs to help my agency expand and broaden awareness to MSIs and other HBCUs about opportunities at NIJ.
Mhm.
So that's another thing that's resulted as, you know, as a result of being a fellow.
So now that you say that, I'm thinking, you know, when I was in school, there were a lot of criminal justice and other type majors at one of the schools that I went to that was an HBCU. And I mean, are there outreach programs to kind of tie that back into STEM? So I know some of the HBCUs are struggling right now, and I think the end of October, right? There's going to be the President's Commission on HBCUs. Is that right?
Right. So the HBCU conference is October 23rd to the 25th. And my agency would definitely be a part of that as a result of some of the work that I've been doing with that initiative. So my director is going to speak on a panel entitled Education and Justice, where Attorney General Loretta Lynch is opening up for us. Just a little bit about the structure of NIJ. So the National Institute of Justice is the science agency of the Department of Justice, but we're a part of the Office of Justice program. So if you've heard of the Bureau of Justice Assistance or the Bureau of Justice Statistics, all of these bureaus are under the Office of Justice programs. And then our boss is the Assistant Attorney General, Carol Mason. So we're all downtown at 7th and H, right at the Gallery Place station, at Metro Station, and then Main Justice is a few blocks down. So
Okay,
technically, our boss is the Assistant Attorney General, Carol Mason,
got it.
and then over her is Attorney General Lynch.
Okay.
But so a lot of the programs that you hear about, like Midnight Basketball, that's the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
My brother's
Um,
keeper, does my brother's keeper fall into that?
My Brother's Keeper is within our agency as well, and they just recently added a STEM component to that. So all of those bureaus are under the Office of Justice Programs, just like my agency.
Okay. Okay. Are there ways besides the fellowship program that, you know, those of us who are too old and too tired to go get PhD, are there other ways to interact with the fellows that you know of? I'm too old
So
to.
sure. So a lot of the fellows are engaged in professional scientific organizations. So I'm chairing the Nobleship Conference. So we're very involved in a lot of other organizations and other initiatives. So
Okay.
that's one thing about the fellows is, the fellows network is pretty broad and pretty deep, and so we're not only fellows, but we're very involved in the community. Some of us have nonprofits, and we're very involved in our professional scientific organizations. So I would think that would be one place. And then another thing is that the AAAS website is a storehouse for all things that are science policy related. So if you're interested, in finding out about, you know, being involved or engaged in science policy without having a PhD, I would still definitely use the AAAS website because it stores pretty much everything that has to do with science policy. And it includes all of the scientific disciplines. So not just the STEM disciplines, health sciences, the social and behavioral sciences as well.
Okay. Okay. And so you had mentioned kind of the breakdown. What is the breakdown, at least in your department? Are the applicants and the current fellows mostly women, mostly young? You may not have those numbers, but just
Yeah, I think they went over the statistics last year at our orientation. So I think our class we had about 280 fellows. The overwhelming majority are in academia,
mhm.
um, and then out of that, the majority are women. So,
Okay.
but I'm considered a non-traditional fellow because I'm older. Many of the fellows are in the late 20s,
Mm,
mid to late 30s. I'm not in that age group, so so I'm considered a non-traditional fellow because I had a career already. I'm on a second career, and
right.
I'm a little older than the average fellow. And then I come from industry as well. We do have fellows that come from industry, but like I said, most of them come from academia. Most are female, and then out of that, a large number of the scientists are in the life sciences.
Now, is there a push because a lot of us know that sometimes when you talk about diversity, you're not necessarily talking about underrepresented minority groups. So, what's the racial makeup? Are there a lot of minorities involved in this? I know it's
No. No, and that's something that I would like. I have been working on things like this. I've done presentations, numerous presentations on this fellowship to my networks to try to just make them aware, especially underrepresented students, of this opportunity because there are not a lot of us as
right.
fellows. I don't know the exact percentage, but it's definitely low.
It's
So I've been trying to just spread the word about this fellowship and share it with as
absolutely.
many as possible in my networks and broader networks, just to let them know that this opportunity exists, especially if you're looking for something different, or a way to see if you're interested in science policy. So I'm trying to spread the word as much as possible
You're
about this
doing a
opportunity.
wonderful job, and I hope some of the attendees at the Noble Conference, some of them, they need to be listening very closely to that because I know there's some interest in doing something beyond.
Oh, definitely. And at the Novache Conference, I'm having a AAAS Science Policy Symposium there. AAAS will be exhibiting. I'm also organizing a forensic symposium, and my agency will be there as well as exhibiting also. So if you're going to be at the Novache Conference, make sure you come to our Science Policy Symposium and our Forensic Symposium, and come by the career booth to learn more about AAAS as well as NIJ.
Awesome. Well, we'll make sure that we keep talking about it, and of course, we'll figure out a way to continue to promote even up to the deadline of people who are wanting to apply for the program. I think it sounds great. I just wish I had known about it 20 years ago. I really.
Yeah, and it's not too late. I mean, like I said, I'm on a second career. I'm like I said, I'm older than the average fellow. So I mean, we have some fellows who've worked for 20 and 30 years who are doing this fellowship and see that it's a great opportunity. So it's never too late.
Did you say people have worked for 30 years?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Wow. So that really is a second career. So you've already done the first career and now you want to make a kind of
Absolutely.
act. But you still have to have a PhD in science or a master's in engineering, right? So
Yes,
even
you
if
do.
you come back, you've got to have that. Is it okay if you recently get it, even if you've been in industry for some time? So if you've worked for 30
I mean, yeah, and that's what I did. So I had a bachelor's and a master's in chemistry. I worked for 13 years in industry, and I went back to school in 2010 and got a PhD in STEM educational research. So I went back from 2010 to 2014. So
wow.
I just got my PhD in 2014, and then I applied for the fellowship in 2015.
Okay. It sounds like, especially for people who, have had a very rich career, um, and want to do something different, but they're not ready to sit at the house, and they can share some insight and wisdom for what they learned over their corporate career or academic career, I guess. An opportunity to really get involved and shape some policies. So I encourage all of you who have advanced degrees or would just like to get involved to consider this program. It sounds great. It really does. I know for me, someone who wasn't quite sure what she wanted to do, this would have been right up my alley because I just don't have an interest in working in a chemical plant.
Oh no, definitely, definitely. And I talk to a lot of students who are master's students, undergrad students, and they're like keeping this on their radar because I found out it actually about it actually. I knew about it, but really found out about it in more detail at the 2012 Nobershade conference that was here in DC. And Robert Pettish, he's a character. I would see him like every year, and I finally just talked to him about the fellowship, and so it was on my radar for the next couple of years. So I've been, working with students who are early in their PhD programs, but they definitely have this like on their radar. So I mean, it's never too early and it's never too late.
Well, we definitely would like to work with you to share this information, not just at this cycle, but next year, right? People who
Absolutely
be able to apply this year, there's certainly, hope for them to consider this next year. And I just think that part of the problem or the challenges that, minority groups have is we just don't know. We just
right.
Don't. So we're not
Right. You don't know what you don't know, and you don't know what opportunities are out there. I've learned so much just about all the options that are available. So that's another thing that this fellowship has helped to do. But I'm definitely trying to spread the word as much as possible. And anybody has any questions, I'll also send you some information to share as well as the link to the website to apply. But I also have some tips about, just how to put together a strong package as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what are you going to do? We have a few minutes left. I don't see any questions. If you all have any questions, we already had one, but if anybody else has any questions, please let us know. We want to make sure that we get your questions answered by Iris. And of course, Iris probably will allow us to shoot her some questions in the future up until the time it's time to apply for it. But anybody have any questions, please, over in the group chat, you can just type a message over there, and we'll get your question answered. It's a little bit different than Blab, so I'm still getting used to this. But what are you going to do next, Iris? So once I know you just started your second year, but what are your plans after your fellowship ends?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm really trying to use this fellowship to set myself up for the next phase, whatever that is. But I want something that's definitely going to leverage my background as a chemical researcher and a STEM education researcher, and something that will incorporate my passion for STEM outreach in the community as well. So if I could find something that combines all of that, that would be great. But I definitely have to get on these informational interviews and really do more of that, because I've been pretty much engaged in developing this diversity initiative at NIJ, and that takes a lot of networking and a lot of outreach. So I need to definitely get back focused on what this next step is. But I'm open and flexible. But I definitely want something that combines the different bucket areas that I have.
Right. Well, I always said one of the benefits of BWISE is the connection. And so many times we're working in isolation, and not that you certainly can't fraternize or socialize with people that don't look like you, but it's just one less thing you have to explain when you can get together with a group of people who've had shared experiences. So I always encourage BWISE members, if you see someone who's doing something that you're interested in, or gosh, that person is really making a difference, reach out to them. And people who know me know my favorite thing to do is to connect other BWISE members. So last night I thought I was connecting to BWISE members. They already knew each other, but
Rhonda, yeah.
connect regarding this program. So I hope Rhonda, if she's not on, I hope she gets some good information and considers this. BWISE has got our fingers in everything, and I think it's just important that we share information when we get it to the broader group of us. So many of us are in careers that just aren't fulfilling. So, knowing that there's something like this out here really is encouraging and inspiring, that there isn't just one path from a STEM career. There really are multiple things, and for someone like me who wanted to do something beyond what they taught in school, be a operations engineer, you know, this would have been great. So the more we can share this information, the better, and hopefully you get more diverse candidates. If not
Yes,
this cycle, the next cycle coming up, you'll probably have more than you'll know what to do with, because we'll just keep promoting this. So
I hope so.
yes, I can feel it. I know. In fact, maybe they need to bring BWISE up and talk about how we can help them with this.
Definitely, that would be great. And again, you can, contact me. I might not be able to get to you right away, but I will.
That's okay. That's okay. We just like to be connecting people with opportunities and other people in order to move this needle forward. And, you know, so many people are actively working in STEM, and I was talking to one of our members in DC earlier, is there's a lot of activity, but not a lot of results. And I know as an engineer, science I think is a little different, because I think scientists are used to experimentation. So if your reaction doesn't work, or you know something you plan doesn't work, you just count that as, well, that's another data point.
Right.
Add it. Engineers don't like that. We do
Right.
not like that. We are the application of science, and we figured it should have been figured out before it got to us. So when I hear, you know, all these efforts in increasing diversity in STEM and getting more girls in STEM, and you know the numbers are going backwards. One number I saw that for African American women, there was a 17% drop from 2000 to 2009. So we're actually going backwards. So, you know, all the young ladies who decide to become engineers back in the, I won't say what year, a decade, there are more of us than there are coming into engineering. And when they get into engineering, especially millennials, you know, they take a good look, 2 years, and then they're gone. They're either going back to their MBAs or they're doing something different. So if the measurement is that we're trying to create and retain more women and minorities in STEM, then we're failing. Just because you're getting more, you know, children to take these classes, if they don't end up in the careers, you can't count that as a win. So I'm passionate about that, and all that I can do to help draw attention to that. Like I said, as an engineer, we're all about the results. It doesn't matter. You spent $500 or thousands of dollars working on this. It still doesn't work. You still don't have what you said you were going to have, so you were not a success from an engineering standpoint.
Right. No, definitely.
Overall, but that's, you know, that's just how engineers are. If it doesn't matter. You did that all that time, didn't work. It didn't work. So I'm passionate. BWISE is equally passionate about moving the needle, not just in numbers, but in quality of experience, right? We can't have lots of us in here but miserable. That's not going to be any good either. So we've got to change the culture of some of these organizations from the inside out. So with that, I'm looking at, we're 8 o'clock on the dot. So I didn't see any questions. If you guys have any last minute questions, I see we still got a couple viewers. So if you've got any last minute questions, I apologize for getting started late, but welcome to technology, I say. Iris, you have any parting thoughts? Any?
I did want to mention that we have the National Institute of Justice has the STEM Graduate Research Fellowship that we just released last week. So we're having we partnered with the White House initiative on HBCUs to facilitate a webinar on October 4th, and that'll be 2 p.m. Eastern. And I can share that link with anybody that's interested. It's for current doctoral students in all STEM fields.
Oh, wow.
So you have to at least have had your dissertation committee formalized and your dissertation topic. So I think first years can apply, but you have to at least be at that stage. But I do have information on that fellowship. That's another great opportunity that many of us don't know about, another avenue for STEM funding with my agency for that fellowship.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much for that. And everyone, I'll make sure that all of Iris's information gets posted. I think I can post it somewhere with the video, but somewhere. It'll be either on YouTube or certainly will be on the BWISEUSA.org website. Hopefully, for those of you who weren't able to catch it live, you can go and watch the replay, get all this fabulous information that Iris was giving to us. Next time, we're not going to have any technical problems. We're just going to come on, and the viewer is going to be seen, and the sound won't be cutting in and out. It's just going to be awesome. So again, thank you, Iris, for taking this time. I know it's getting late on the East Coast, so we'll let you go to bed. But thank you again for coming on and sharing this wonderful program. I'm anticipating that you'll get at least one new member from BWISE. I'm just saying. I'm just hoping.
I hope so.
One BWISER is gonna see this broadcast and reach out to you. I've got 600 of them, so 1 out of 600.
That's awesome. That's amazing. And thank you, Erica, to your work. And, starting this group is really needed. I haven't been able to, I didn't make the DMV outing, but hopefully I'll make the next one, and hopefully I'll be in town for the next event here.
Well, you're there in spirit, and we appreciate all the wonderful things that you do. We see all your pictures on LinkedIn with the kids, so thank you for doing that, and keep up the good work.
Love the kids.
Love the kids. Iris loves the kids. So thank you again for all your hard work. Let's do this again. If
Okay.
we get some people to apply, I want to bring them back on after they've had a chance to work and tell us, all the fabulous things they're doing, and you can join in. So stay tuned for that, everybody. And certainly if you have any questions for Iris that didn't get answered, send them to me, Erica, at ERIKA@BWISEUSA.org. And I'll make sure I post all the information that Iris has for the fellowship program on the website. And if I can post it with this video, I will. Got to figure that out still. So thank you again, Iris.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you all. Stay tuned. Next week we'll have the founder of NSBE on, George Smith, talking about NSBE and all things engineering. It'll be great. Hopefully it'll be a very informative hour for you all. So come back and see us next week, and you all have a wonderful night. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.